Last year, the U.S. State Department said it had uncovered a fake embassy in Accra that had been issuing a stream of forged visas. The story went viral, but all was not as it seemed by Yibo.
Fake U.S. Embassy operate in Ghana.
Fake U.S. Embassy operate in Ghana for a decade.
City of posts, here to beating the red. Cash calls first, then they're boarding the plane. Chasing blue skies with the risk in their veins. Accra to America.
In a quiet corner of Accra, Ghana, there stood a two-story building. It flew an American flag, displayed a framed portrait of President Obama, had security guards at the gate, and opened 3 days a week, strictly by appointment. Locals believed it was the U.S. Embassy. They paid thousands of dollars to walk through its doors. But here's the thing. It wasn't an embassy. It wasn't American. And the people running it weren't diplomats. For 10 years, a criminal network ran a fully functional, fake U.S. embassy, issuing real visas, forged passports, and fake identities right under the noses of authorities. This is the story of how they did it, and how they got away with it for a decade.
Awkward streets breathe with a hustle never sleep. Gold Coast clean, dreams buried deep from it. Come on the market where the queens call their shots. To the fishing boats, men fight for what they've got. Money talk louder, silence gets bought.
For many West Africans, a U.S. visa is more than travel. It's escape. A chance to leave behind poverty, unemployment, and political instability. But getting that visa through official means, nearly impossible. Rejections at U.S. embassies are routine. Applications are denied for lack of funds, travel history, or simply being from the wrong country. And so, the dream turned to whispers, to street posters, to names passed in markets, people who knew someone at the embassy. By 2007, a rumor spread through Accra's eastern districts. There's a place where you can get an American visa. No interviews, no rejections. It's real. But it'll cost you. The cost? Around $6,000. For some, that meant savings. For others, it meant loans, family land, or everything they had. But it worked. They entered a building and walked out with what looked like a real visa, because it was.
Awkward streets breathe with a hustle never sleep. Gold Coast clean, dreams buried deep from it. Come on the market where the queens call their shots. To the fishing boats, men fight for what they've got. Money talk louder, silence gets bought.
The fake embassy was no back alley shack. It was a carefully staged illusion, complete with security guards, clerks behind glass, waiting rooms, bottled water, and an air of quiet authority. A portrait of President Obama hung proudly in the main hall. Visitors were fingerprinted, photographed, and led to consular interviews. Everything felt legitimate. But behind the curtain, it was theater. The staff, criminal actors, Turkish nationals, and Ghanaians. The building, a rented home disguised with props and uniforms. And the documents, forged in mobile print shops, using real materials. That's the twist. The visas weren't just fake. They were fraudulently obtained, but legitimate US visas, printed on stolen blanks, embedded with valid serials.
Awkward streets breathe with a hustle never sleep. Gold Coast clean, dreams buried deep from it. Come in the market where the queens call their shots to the fishing boats. Men fight.
At the center of it all was a transnational syndicate, a criminal network stretching from Ghana to Turkey and beyond. Turkish forgers supplied the technology, laminators, embosser stamps, digital templates. Ghanaian middlemen recruited customers, often targeting vulnerable people in refugee camps, border towns, or poor districts. Some of the forged documents weren't for travel. They were for new identities, US birth certificates, fake school diplomas, even Canadian and Belgian papers. The ring operated like a cartel. Discretion was enforced with threats, and occasionally with silence. Anonymous quote, "If you told anyone, you wouldn't leave Ghana. That was the rule." But how did they stay open for a decade? Corruption. Local police were bribed to look away. Airport staff were paid to ignore irregular documents. Even lower-level immigration officials were suspected of involvement.
Gold Coast clean, dreams buried deep from it. Come in the market where the queens call their shots to the fishing boats. Men fight for what they've got. Money talk louder, silence gets bought. US visa, golden ticket, always sought. Big dream stamp.
In 2016, something broke the illusion. A tip reached the US Diplomatic Security Service, DSS. A traveler landed in Europe with a valid visa that didn't match any known interview records. Then came another, then another. An investigation began, quietly. Operation Spartan Vanguard. US and Ghanaian agents tracked suspects, monitored wire transfers, followed shipping crates from Turkey to Ghana. Then, in December 2016, after months of surveillance, they struck. At 4:07 a.m., CID officers raided the compound. Inside, they found over 150 passports, some blank, some filled, stacks of visa foils, forged consular stamps, thousands in cash, cedis, dollars, euros, Turkish and Ghanaian operatives mid-production. One man was found destroying hard drives in a back room.
Gold Coast clean, dreams buried deep from it. Come in the market where the queens call their shots to the fishing boats. Men fight for what they've got. Money talk louder, silence gets bought. US visa, golden ticket, always sought. Big dream stamp passport.
The story should have ended there, with headlines, arrests, and prosecutions. But what followed was silence. A few suspects were quietly deported. Some charges vanished. No major sentences were reported. The US issued a short statement. The building was seized. Then the world moved on. Except the people who paid, who borrowed money they never got back, who trusted a flag that wasn't real. For 10 years, a fake embassy sold a very real dream. It used fear, hope, and desperation. It exploited a system that looks the other way until it's too late. They called it a fraud, a scam, a scandal. But for some, It was the only embassy that ever said yes, not because it believed in them, but because it saw a price and they were willing to pay it. Well, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed this journey with me and want to see where it goes next, hitting like and subscribing would mean so much. Your comments and ideas are what help shape this channel, so please don't hesitate to share them. Thank you for being a part of this.